It is my honor to introduce to you a friend who I've had the privilege of having as my next door classroom neighbor for 4 years. Even though he's changed roles here at Collegiate, I don't get to see him as much as I like to. I still consider him a great friend and colleague. Now, you guys probably think Collegiate is really all about you, and in a lot of ways it is. But there is also this secret social world that exists above you, and that is the friends that the teachers form with each other. Peter and I have always had a very similar sense of humor, so I eagerly played along with all his jokes, from taking David Hasselhoff photos between our door, doing the Harlem Shake. I don't know if anybody was in that here. Also, the hundreds of attempts to rickroll each other, and at last count, I think I'm up to 2. Is that right? Something like that. Yeah, good. It's really hard to imagine this school without, his wry sense of humor. So Peter's at Collegiate for all the right reasons. He really loves to get to know his students. He loves teaching science. I'm a really gifted science teacher. Loves to introduce technology to students and the faculty alike. And he also loves destroying any student that dares challenge him in eating contests. I think he's a 9-time champion. Hopefully this Friday he'll retire champion. He's also, just a word of advice, don't ever ask Mr. Carr to Google something that you could easily Google for yourself. I have, and he sarcastically said, let me Google that for you. It hurt my feelings. So, I've always respected Peter for his ability to command a crowd, and I'm sure he'll do just that here in just a minute. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you my friend and colleague, Mr. Peter Carr.
Some wisdom which someone said the other day on how to live life or discuss mistakes that I've made during my tenure on this plan. Perhaps I should try to be funny, which is kind of my go-to, or I could try to be super heartfelt, which isn't really me either. I've watched a lot of you guys share super personal experiences or pieces of your lives and try to come up with some unifying theme that defines you, which is an incredibly difficult task to do. I do talk with my hands, you're right. The idea that I can impart wisdom to you is both flattering and scary, in that I don't really consider myself to be wise. I openly accept being wrong all the time. I think this is a great way to live. So today I'm going to share with you some pictures and tell you some stuff. Stuff number 1. I'm very envious of you. Each and every one of you. Students, teachers, chairs. I have been fortunate to be in a place like Collegiate. And it's made me think really hard about my experiences at school. I went to various public schools and then eventually made my transition to Catholic middle schools, and then, like every other good young man in a Catholic middle school, I had the choice of any high school I wanted, either Trinity or St. X. I did eventually move to Trinity High School, and yes, I do have an X tattoo on my leg, and no, that's not for St. X. And yes, actually, I did go to Xavier University, but no, it's not for that either, and I will talk about it a little bit later. So I get asked that question, sorry. My schooling experiences weren't bad. I wouldn't say that. They certainly had their place, but they just weren't super enjoyable for me. Just like yours might not be every day, but for the most part for me, life was just kind of blah. It was uninspiring, it was time-consuming, it was education. I certainly had some amazing teachers at Trinity, and the experience just didn't leave me with an overwhelming feeling of attachment or compulsion to support their next football stadium. I don't get mad when someone tells me they went to St. X, I just don't care. My envy comes from seeing what you are faced with every day. Teachers here are not only intelligent, but they are plugged into the school community. They care about you, they want you to succeed. I cannot express how great it would have been to have had any teacher come to me and beg me to join a club, or be told that I can be a part of any team I want. I just never felt that love that I feel here. Teachers are here because they want to be. While not every day is going to be life-changing, I truly believe that the school is special in that regard. I'm also envious of your time. You have so many wonderful things in front of you, things that will shape you into being amazing, unique people. While I often sit and wonder what I might have done if I had gone into medicine instead of teaching, knowing that I get to experience and watching so many of you go through so many formative experiences just happy. I don't like grading papers. I'd rather have a chat about why science is cool instead of lecturing on cellular respiration. I'm indifferent to committees and homework policies. Sorry, Mr. Bear. But I really do love working with kids, and I love this school. From eating approximately 34 pounds of foods at great speeds, to getting my entire science class to sing a rendition of Teenage Dirtbag on camera, to arguing the validity of girls lacrosse with bros, to seeing a student finally earn the grade they wanted, I wish I could have experienced what you guys are getting to experience right now. Stuff number 2. Passion is important. Now, Tori Murden McClure kind of stole my thunder here last week when she started talking about passion, but I had this written before her, so I'm going with it. I've been told passion was important my entire life. It took me time to figure out what that meant to me. To me, passion is riddled with love. Something that you would do, that you would love to do. Something that would change your life for the positive. Something that makes you a better person. Something that makes you feel complete. I subtly alluded to the fact that I was kind of indifferent as a kid. I did well enough in school, except for physics, which isn't real, so it doesn't count. I liked soccer, but didn't push myself hard enough to be the world changer that I was clearly destined to be. And it wasn't until my junior year of high school that I found something that I felt was really changing the way I looked at things. Louisville's incredibly fortunate to have a wonderful music scene. And I started going to shows in what is now the Book and Music Exchange. It hurts my heart a little bit. Now, concert wasn't really the right words because 15 kids watching a terrible band play sloppy songs they wrote in the garage isn't exactly worthy of being called a concert. But week after week, I'd go to this arcade venue hybrid to watch whoever was playing, feeding off the raw energy and emotion. This was different than what I heard on the radio. It was different than what my parents played for me, and it was mine. I started to pick up on who I was, or what I was into, who I was into, what I wanted to be, and eventually grabbed onto larger bands with larger followings who sang about things way more important than the love songs cluttering the radio. I just want to point out, I really only put this up because you've all been here. Well, many of you have been here. This is where BW3s is now. This is where I played my first show. This is where I learned a whole lot about life. This is where I act like a complete idiot. But it's just kind of funny to me that I can now go watch soccer in the same building. The one on Barcenter.
Oh, which one were you? The one.
Really? Sick. Okay. I'll let you figure it out. I thought it was obvious. I think this music kind of gets a bad rap for being loud and abrasive, which it certainly is and was. Frankly, that's what drew me in. Once I was there, I learned that there were bands that had great things to say about how they wanted to change the world. Topics like child welfare, veganism, straight edge, gender equality, and more were regularly discussed while the bands played, between songs. This is what this song is about, and they tell you why it's so important. And the next band gets on stage, and they have a completely different view, and that was okay. And that did a great job in informing me about life, and seeing people with passion, seeing people get angry about things, but being able afterwards to shake hands and move forward really shaped who I want to be. Being on the sidelines of something was very easy, but there were natural calls to be a part of something. This is where I struggled. Usually I just wanted to go to shows and hang out, sing along, act like an idiot, but something changed that. It was mortality. Some of you guys are aware, but 6 weeks before I was supposed to start college, I was in a boating accident. I guess technically I was run over, or backed over by a boat. Slowly, I might add. I had plenty of time to acknowledge what was happening. The boat propeller was rotating. It was exciting. All in all, I received over 100 stitches, putting my left leg back together. I saw my femur. It was really white in color. If you ever see a bone, impressive. I spent a few days in the hospital, but I was physically back to health pretty quickly. While in the hospital, someone said something that really affected me. They pointed out that a mere inch further inside of my thigh would have nicked my femoral artery, and things would have gone downhill fairly quickly. 3 18-year-olds on a boat in the middle of the river is not really a great place for that to happen. My freshman year of college didn't go so well as a result of that. I was in a weird place of not really knowing how to deal with my own mortality, on top of not feeling like I fit in, which is very much a teenager, so it worked. Music and my growing passion for it became a savior to me during this time. I started playing guitar, I met more people who played and put all of my free time into it. By the end of my freshman year of college, I was in a touring band. While it wasn't the most complex of music, it was filled with the raw emotion, the passion that intrigued me. Over my years in bands, that has always been the one unifying theme to my passion for it. What emotion can I associate with what they're doing? There are albums that I have emotional attachments to, even if I have no idea what they're talking about. Those albums came to me at the right time, caught me in the exact moment of my life where I needed to hear another 20-something-year-old kid trying to figure their life out, scream into a microphone, and try to explain their frustration. It was cathartic, it was passionate, and for me, that's what music did and does. It gave me direction, it called me to action, and it made me feel whole. Stuff number 3. It's okay not to drink. I own the red one, by the way. Okay, after you've just rolled your eyes in the back of your head because another adult is talking to you about drugs and alcohol, maybe instead you should consider this a do you because you want to sort of point. Just hear me out quickly and we can move on to my last stuff. I have not knowingly ingested alcohol, tobacco, illegal drugs into my body for nearly 16 years. I say knowingly because chefs cook with wine and don't always put that on the menu, while the alcohol is certainly cooked out. If given the choice, I would choose to avoid it. Again, people always seem to want to point this out to me. Yes, I made different choices before that. No, nothing life-changing occurred. It didn't ruin my life in one horrible night. But I did make a few realizations. Number 1, I had an addictive personality. And it wasn't going to be a good thing. Although my addiction to Gibson guitars and colored vinyl hasn't been negative to my life, just my wallet. Number 2, the only reasons I ever did any of this was because I felt compelled to by my peers. I never had a personal urge. I never wanted to be a connoisseur of fine beverages. I just felt like I had to fit in. Many years later, I still don't. I didn't in college. I didn't after college. I don't now. I still made mistakes. I still went to parties. I still acted like a gomer. I still had bad dance moves. But I can say with a clear head, I did all of those things with a clear head. I still have regrets, but I can own those without stipulation. Do you. And do what you choose to do. Don't let others decide that for you. No one looks back and thinks, man, am I glad I did what I thought made me look cool in front of those kids. But I have plenty of friends who might say the opposite. Some, unfortunately, who aren't around to say it. Stuff number 4. Go out and be awesome. I love Calvin and Hobbes. I own all the books. I've read them all. I used Calvin and Hobbes' cartoon as writing prompts during student teaching, and I truly believe that Bill Watterson has captured the true wonder and mystery of what it means to be a kid with a giant imagination. In a lot of ways, I was Calvin growing up. I'm an only child who had a female arch nemesis across the street. I had a stuffed animal at my side. I would come up with all sorts of fun things to do in the woods behind my house. Do you remember them? In short, I too like to get into adventures. I like to antagonize teachers and neighbors and my parents. Growing up is harsh because you don't realize how many things you didn't appreciate when you had them. Cinderella, the band, old dude, might have said, you don't know what you got till it's gone. But hairbands were lame. Corinthians said, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, I gave up child's ways. While this is taken partially out of context, I still kind of hate this idea. In fact, to this day, I try to act like a kid whenever possible, to which my always embarrassed biology class can certainly attest. Don't get me wrong, there are many wonderful things about being a grown-up. The whole joy, about being grown up, and the whole joy of a child Peter Pan thing is overdone and equally lame. But being a kid is the best. A time when there are so many firsts before you, when you get unnaturally excited over relatively small things. My daughter actually danced around the house a few weeks ago for 5 minutes because she got an Elsa spoon from the cereal box. Thank you, Molly Prince. You don't know much. You don't know to be scared of things, or self-conscious, or afraid of real things. Losing this innocence is such a bummer. The greatest tragedy of childhood is it happens before you can appreciate it. I know you're all racing to grow up, but don't think that you have to stop being a kid when you turn 15, or 25, or 35, or 105. Just try to be a little more like Calvin. Mess with your parents. Let your imagination run wild. Question authority. Innocently. Although there's merit in doing it knowingly too. Be weird. Have pretend battles with T-Rexes and aliens if you want to. Mouth off to bullies. And then run away. Remember that summer is always over too quickly. And don't forget that things are never quite as scary as when you've got a best friend. I'll leave you with my favorite favorite of all the Calvin and Hobbes cartoons. It's actually the last one that came out. And it reads as such, if you can't see it. Wow, it really snowed last night. Isn't it wonderful? Everything familiar has disappeared. The world looks brand new. A new year, a fresh, clean start. It's like having a big, white sheet of paper to draw on. A day full of possibilities. It's a magical world, Hobbes. Let's go explore.